Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. For those of you that are new, welcome to the shit show that is us. For those of you returning, thanks for coming back. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
So today's case is a very recent case involving the murders of 4 young people that were taken away too soon. Actually, today marks a month that the murders occurred.
Oh, wow.
Because it happened November 13th of this year. So exactly a month away. And we still don't know a whole lot about this case, but I tried to bring as much that was public information that I could give, basically.
Yeah. Yep. And of course, as we always do, we will give our opinions and speculate. But before we get into that, my name's Natalie.
I'm Erica, and this is Drunken True Crime.
So before we get into it, we do have a few disclaimers. If you're new here, listen up. If you are returning, you've heard these a million times. So we're going to go through them fast. 1, we talk about true crime. 2, we drink. 3, we cuss. 4, we laugh. And that's because we are typically making fun of each other and sometimes the asshats that commit these murders, but never the victims.
Exactly. Yeah. Never the victims.
We do have one last legal disclaimer that we are forced to put in here, and here it goes.
Now.
The information provided by us in this video is for educational purposes. All information in this video is provided in good faith. The views expressed are our own personal opinions, and the details we provide are all alleged, and individuals are innocent until proven guilty in the court of law.
So if all of those things sound great to you and none of those things offend you, then grab your cocktail and get those headphones, because this case is, we're going to talk a lot on this one for sure.
But before we get started, today's drink that we are having, I actually looked up like the most popular, because I didn't know if there was a cocktail in Idaho. So I was like, what is the most popular cocktail?
They don't have cocktails in Idaho.
Well, I didn't know if they had like a state one or if there was like a local one. And it just popped up. The most popular like cocktail in Idaho is a whiskey sour.
Yes.
Which Natalie doesn't really like it.
Well, okay, so hear me out. So we went with a more traditional recipe, which had, like, we did the whole shebang, like the egg white and all, y'all. We did it all. My suggestion is just get up and walk your ass to the store and get the mixed shit, because it tastes better. I know it's loaded with sugar, but that's why it tastes better. So.
And I said I've had worse things in my mouth, so. Right. So today's case, we are covering the University of Idaho murders, the murders of Ethan Chafin, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, and Madison Mogan.
That was really good.
I asked Suri before we started how to pronounce each names, because I didn't want to offend them, because I wanted to be mindful of that and respect each one of them. So
if we did still say it wrong, we apologize, but just know the effort was there.
Right. Just a little background. The 4 students that tragically lost their lives were 21-year-old Kaylee Gonzalez, 21-year-old Madison Mogan, 20-year-old Ethan Chapin, and then 20-year-old Xana Kernodle. These 4 students went to the University of Idaho and lived in Moscow. The town of Moscow has a population of 25,000 people. Before these murders happened, there had not been a single murder that was recorded in this town for 7 years.
Yeah, and one thing on that, so it's about 25,000 to 26,000, whatever, people that live there. But isn't it like 13,000 of those are students? Like, it is a college town.
It is definitely a college town. Yeah. Everything like revolves around the college, definitely.
Yeah.
So needless to say, this tragic event has completely rocked and shaken this community. So before these murders occurred, the students mentioned they felt safe around the campus, just walking late at night. They felt safe walking, to bars and restaurants, and they felt like they could even, leave their bikes unlocked. However, these murders, like I said, has completely shaken the community and taken away these young people's feelings of safety.
Yeah.
Many students have even left early before Thanksgiving because they were too scared to stay.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
Due to the killer being on the loose. I mean, they still have no idea. Yeah. It's a month later, have no idea who has done this to these 4 wonderful human beings.
Yeah, and I mean, thinking back to like in school, so I lived by myself when I was in college. I wouldn't have gone back, especially now that they're like, some of the professors are like allowing them to take
online classes.
Yeah, exactly. Like move it online because they say they don't feel comfortable forcing the students to come back when there's a killer on the loose. But I wouldn't have felt comfortable doing that. I would have stayed with someone else during that time.
And even the university has, they put in precautions. Like if their students are staying on campus, they need to walk in pairs. A coffee shop on campus has even changed their employees' hours so that they can get home before dark, which is awesome.
Yeah.
That's very smart, trying to keep everybody safe.
So 21-year-old Kaylee was from Rathdrum, Idaho. Jesus Christ.
Ohio.
Okay, she is from Idaho, not Ohio. So, you can see from the pictures if you're watching on YouTube, Kaylee was extremely beautiful. She was actually going to graduate a semester early. So she was set to graduate this December.
Wow.
I know, which is so sad. So after graduation, she had it all set up where she was going to move to Austin, Texas. She already had a job lined up, which was really exciting. She was going to be working for a marketing firm, and she was actually going to be moving down there with one of her friends, Jordan. Now, Kaylee was very excited to move away from her home state, which I'm sure most are.
Yes, I was.
I never did. So stayed in my home state forever. And, just explore more of the country. She loved to travel. And this was just a very exciting time for her. Kaylee was also in the Alpha Phi sorority, where her little described her as a kind, loving person who enjoyed silly pranks, who loved to travel, and was always looking for an adventure. So now going to Kaylee's best friend, Madison. So she was also 21 years old, and she went by Maddie, and she was from
Coeur d'Alene.
Thank you. Idaho. Maddie was also described as being extremely kind and caring. She cared deeply about her friendships and made sure to stay close with her family, even her extended family. Now, Maddie had a boyfriend named Jake who said she was so excited about graduating next year. And, just overall, Maddie was a very, very positive person who brought acts of kindness to others. Also, fun fact, she was in the same sorority that I was in
Really?
college. Yeah. So she was in Pi Beta Phi. And her and Kaylee grew up together. Like they were best friends. So they had known each other from childhood, went to high school together, and then chose to
college.
live together in college, which I think is so awesome. So then we have 20-year-old Xana, who is from Post Falls, Idaho. She did spend some time in Arizona in her recent years because that's where her father lived. Now, her father describes her as someone who was never worried about drama. She just really liked having fun with her friends and never really liked materialistic things. She was a tough girl and always responsible. She had even been helping out her boyfriend, Ethan, with his own studies, which I did hear her dad speak about this, how he had noticed a change since she had started dating Ethan and how she had been really helpful to him and how they were just growing together as a couple. And it was so exciting for him to see, which is just even more heartbreaking when we go through the details of what happens next.
So 20-year-old Ethan Chapin was from Conway, Washington. He was one of a set of triplets he was really close to.
Yeah.
Triplets. Good
I know.
Lord.
And they're so cute. If you
I've saw pictures of them and they
refer to each other as best friends.
Yes.
And it's like they've been together since they were in the womb, and it's adorable.
It was said that on the day of November 12th, he spent the majority of his day with his siblings. His mom, Stacy, described him as being the life of the party, made everyone laugh, and was the kindest person that she could know. Which, oh my God.
No, he's so sweet. These kids just seemed...
They seemed to have their whole lives ahead of them, and they were like...
had their head on straight.
They had their head on straight. They were doing good.
Yeah, they were doing the right things in life. And they were going to go so far. It pisses me off.
I know. All three girls, Madison, Kaylee, and Xana, lived in a house on 1112 King Street at nearby off-campus in Moscow. In addition, they lived with two other roommates in a 3-story home with 6 bedrooms. Ethan, who was Xana's boyfriend, was visiting at the time that this event occurred.
Which was not abnormal. He spent the night a lot.
Yeah,
right?
he was around the house a lot. Like you said, she was helping him with his homework and stuff like that. So he would be over. And from what I've read, like these 6 individuals that lived in this house, and I'm including Ethan into this.
Okay.
They were best friends. Like they
Yeah.
did everything together.
Okay.
So there's a famous Instagram post that Kaylee posted, her last post, and it was all of the 6 of them. It's famous now. Like it's pretty much all that will pop up on Google, but that was the last post. But it's all 6 of them like about to go to the football game. But on Saturday, November 12th, all 6 of the friends went to a football game that afternoon. Later on that night, Ethan and Zana went to a party on campus at the Sigma Chi fraternity house. At around 8 or 9 p.m. This is just like a timeline that the police have put together through Twitch and just different video surveillance cameras. They say 8 to 9-ish, so there's not like an exact time, which the fraternity was a short walk away from the house on King Street, or King Road, I should say. It's King Street.
Yeah.
Natalie, tell me about an experience that you had at frat parties, and I'll tell you a tale of Erica peeing on a frat house while completely trashed.
I don't remember any like funny ones. I also had a boyfriend all throughout college.
I had a boyfriend when I peed on a frat house, but I mean,
yeah, I was more
to
of the
each his
mother.
own.
I was more of the like mother hen. I feel like with our friends. My friends were also batshit crazy.
Yeah,
like.
My story, I wasn't actually supposed to be out partying because it was during our Alabama gymnastics like season. And like a couple of us just snuck away after our meet and went to a couple of parties. And I don't know which fraternity house it was. Like I said, I was completely trashed. But we had played, have you ever heard of Slap the Bag? Where you drink wine out of the bag and you slap it?
I've heard of it. I have never partaken.
Well, that was what I was drinking. Those box wines. So
real classy.
You get very classy and you get really drunk really fast. And I walked outside and I was like, I didn't realize I was outside. I thought that I was in the bathroom.
But you remember all of this?
Yes.
Oh, that's impressive.
And peed on the brick of the frat house. And a lot of my teammates were like videoing and giggling. But somehow our head coach found out about it and had the video the next day.
I don't doubt that. You're lucky
day.
You didn't get arrested. Children, don't do this. Also, children don't watch our channel.
Well, yeah, children, you need to get off our channel in general. But children, don't watch, don't
do that.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
That was a lovely story I told.
Yeah. I know. Okay, back to the case.
Investigators have said that from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., Madison and Kaylee were at a corner club in downtown Moscow. When I did my Lord's work and did the deep dive of this case, I found out that the Corner Club is a sports bar and is really popular for fans that are University of Idaho. I said it.
I know. I don't know why I keep saying that too.
So I found that the Corner Club is a sports bar that is in downtown Moscow and is really popular to the fans of University of Idaho. Vandals. Madison and Kaylee, who are captured on video at 1:41 a.m., they were standing outside of a food truck. They are waiting in line at the Grub Wandering Kitchens food truck. God, I miss college food trucks. They are chatting with friends in line. They are placing their order. So after that, Madison and Kaylee received a ride from a quote-unquote private party. Fuck my life. Partily. Madison and Kaylee received a ride from a quote-unquote private... What's wrong with me?
Private party.
Thank you.
They received a ride from a private party. I got you.
Thank you. You got me, girl. Initially, they thought it was an Uber ride, but police have specifically stated it was a private party who they have not released yet who it was. The private party has been ruled out as a suspect. They arrived at the home around 2 a.m. In the early hours of November 13th, investigators believe that Xana and Ethan returned to Xana's home on King Road after they had had enough of frat partying. It has been said that the 2 surviving roommates also went out on November 12th. They returned home that night before the other 4 students. They returned around 1 a.m. So they weren't out partying as much as the other 4, but they did come home at a somewhat decent hour and went to bed after that.
That is not decent. That is still late.
For a college student?
Yeah, I guess, but still. Oof.
Girl, I'm 32 and I still go out at like 4 a.m. sometimes.
I don't like that. So police have been up front and said that recently it is believed that the murders took place between the hours of 3 a.m. and 4 a.m.
Later on that morning of November 13th, the 2 surviving roommates woke up a little bit later in the evening. They went upstairs.
In the morning.
Yeah. They went upstairs to find, their roommates kind of unconscious and not responding.
Yeah.
So they called a third party. This could be their friends from outside of the house. Now, the third party decides if it's a one person or two. We don't know that yet.
Okay.
But they decide to come to the house.
Yeah.
That third party calls 911, and that was placed at 11:58 a.m., reporting an unconscious person.
Yeah, and I've heard so many different reports of how this went down because this seems a little sketchy to me. I'm not going to lie. When I first heard this, I was like, unconscious? Like, we know it was a bloodbath in there. Like, you can't tell me these students were stabbed that many times and there wasn't blood everywhere. So if you walk in and, like, don't notice, like, I thought it was sketchy at first. I now, like, after more has come out, I get, like, they're not involved in this, right?
No.
But, like, how it's reported, I just think they're not telling us exactly what happened. Like, it's this, how it's being reported is not what
it's
really
not
happened.
computing unless they did like CPR and they're like, okay, they're not responding. Like, now we should call 911.
But you wouldn't call like as an unconscious person,
right?
Like you would say like
something.
My friends have been attacked or like stabbed or they're bleeding everywhere. Or
right.
It wouldn't be it's an unconscious person. It was just weird. I feel like.
On top of that, the third party was the one that placed the call. Using one of the phones of the surviving roommate. So they didn't even call from their own cell phone. They used the surviving roommate's cell phone.
Well, I don't understand why the roommate wouldn't have just called 911. Like, it just seems a little sketchy. I just think it's not being reported how it went down.
Right.
The attacks, when they started, they believed that the 4 students were asleep. Now, some of the victims had defensive wounds. So, maybe they woke up when it first occurred and they tried to defend themselves. At this point, it's not fully known. But it brings into question, how does a murderer seemingly get in there, leave there with 2 surviving members in the home? So there's 4 that were murdered, 2 surviving ones. Now, I have something on this, so I don't know if you're going to get into it, but...
And the house information, which I think I cover anyways, but I'll go ahead and say it. Yeah. So, like, the 2 surviving roommates were on the first floor. Kaylee and Madison were on the second floor. And then Xana and Ethan were on the third floor.
Yeah, but so another thing about this house is that it's 3 stories, but it wasn't always 3 stories. So it was originally a 1-story home. And so where the 2 surviving roommates in this house that was like the walls that are pressed up against the second and third and what they're against were originally exterior walls. So that soundproofing, or if you will, it's just, there's more soundproofing to it than your average like house and walls.
Right.
So it very well could be that they just didn't hear it. And we talked about this. They were out drinking the night before. They were college students. Like, we've been there.
Right.
Like, So
another thing that I didn't really get into just because like it's been talked about, but I didn't really know how to bring it up. I just thought I would do it on the fly.
Yeah.
Is there was a code to get into the house, and it was said by I think Kaylee's sister that this house was a party house.
Yeah.
And you know how things go around. It's like, hey, I forgot the code. When someone's coming in, they're like, oh, here's the code. Like, it was passed around a lot.
Yeah. I heard the same thing, that this was a party house, a go-to house, and the code was shared with everyone. I had friends who like taught me how to break into their house using a credit card.
Right.
Like, this is normal in college. And especially like, I did not grow up. I did not go to college in the safest city at all. And so they've described this as being super safe. So this is not abnormal to me that they would just hand this out.
No.
Now, it was reported that Kaylee had a dog that was in the home when the police arrived at the crime scene. And crime scene investigators said that the dog was not present where the victims were found. Now, this gives us some hesitation. Yeah. One, why wasn't the dog in the room with Kaylee?
Like, maybe the dog was barking a lot because she sensed like maybe the murderer was already outside waiting for them to go to bed.
Yeah.
And because it was barking a lot, Kaylee got annoyed and like locked it out of the bedroom.
Gotcha.
Police also have said that the dog did not tamper with any of the crime scene. Like, there's no blood. There's no like him being in there, which would make sense if Kaylee locked him out of the bedroom. I feel like So the dog, I feel like, had to be downstairs then. And if the dog was downstairs, why didn't it attack that person that came in?
Yeah.
My dogs would be attacking till the very end, like Katie Janessa's dog that we've talked about. Yep. I mean, attacking till the very end. Is it possible that the dog was already familiar with the person or persons coming into the home, so it didn't see it as a threat?
So is it confirmed that the dog was inside the house versus outside the house?
So police said that the dog was in the house when police got there.
Yeah, that's weird to me. I feel like a dog would at least bark enough to where it would wake up the two, like Xana and Ethan. I don't know. There's a lot of weird things in this story. Yeah, because we're not getting the whole story, rightfully so. Because it's an active investigation, we get it. But that's why there is so much speculation in this case.
Right.
Because we don't know half of the shit that actually went on.
So police said that the dog was taken to the shelter after they came in and did the investigation, where it was released back to Kaylee's family. Oh. Another thing that has been brought up in the media and, speculation, there was a dog that was on King Road 3 weeks before the murders that had been taken and flayed.
Oh, yeah. I did hear about this.
And, I think it was left outside the owner's house, or somehow it was found and it was filleted. And that's 3 weeks before the murder. So the speculation was this was both related, but police came out this week and said that, there's no connection between the dog that was filleted, which that's fucking psychopath. I mean,
gonna say, what's going on there
what is going
Idaho?
on King Street or on King Road in a span of 4 weeks?
Yeah. Moscow, you're not that safe is what the
fuck is going on?
Yeah.
There's a dog that's filleted and then this happens. Oh my God.
So diving a little bit into the house. So in this 3-story home, police found Kaylee and Madison on the 2nd floor, and then Xana and Ethan, they were on the 3rd floor. And then again, the 2 surviving roommates were on the 1st floor. Now, even though it's kind of sketchy, we talked about this with the 911 call and whether they wouldn't be able to hear, a vicious attack going on. Police quickly cleared the 2 surviving roommates as suspects. So stop speculating that they're the ones that did it.
Right.
Now, the next statement that's come out is coming from the property management team that manages the rental house. Now, there's actually a sixth person that is on the lease agreement. It's unclear if this 6th person that was on the lease was still living at the home during this tragic event.
So the police stated that 4 victims were stabbed to death with a edged weapon. Lately, they have stated that the victims were stabbed with a fixed blade weapon. Police still have not found the murder weapon that was used, though. So there was an autopsy done by the county coroner, and this is what he or she, I can't remember if it was a he or she. I'm just doing this verbatim of just not verbatim. It was a she?
Yeah.
I'm just doing this off of memory. So she stated, for University of Idaho.
It was Ohio and Idaho. You were getting closer to Idaho that time.
What the hell?
I started it. I cursed us from the beginning with Ohio. Oh, bless it.
So 4 University of Idaho students were found dead in a rental home Sunday. They were stabbed to death in their beds and likely were still asleep. Each victim suffered multiple stab wounds, would be from a pretty large knife, is what the coroner said. It has to be someone that is pretty angry in order to stab 4 people to death. The victims were stabbed in the chest and the upper body area, which is what caused their death. The victims were also likely asleep, like she already stated. Some had defensive wounds and each were stabbed multiple times. There was no evidence of SA. So police have said that there is no sign of forced entry or no signs of anything that had been taken from the home either.
A lot of people said in this community, right, that they kept their doors unlocked. A lot of people had a code. There was a back window that was a sliding door that you can easily get into without breaking in, right? Okay.
And given that all 6 of them were out and about and they came home probably a little tipsy,
yeah,
you're not going to be as cautious as you probably were sober.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, let's take a step back and what do we know, right? So there were multiple phone calls made by Kaylee and Madison to a male individual. It's now being reported that those multiple phone calls were to Kaylee's ex-boyfriend. Now, this communication helped narrow down the timeline and time of death. And when we say multiple, it was like back to back to back. Like
it was like 8 phone calls. And
Yeah.
I've read some articles saying that this was normal to Kaylee.
Yeah.
Which made me laugh because I've done this to so many people. Like, she would call her family and she would call them repeatedly until they answered.
Yeah. And like we talked about, they had gone out that night, like probably a little tipsy,
Right.
probably drunk, honestly. And like this is how I feel like it would go down if you and I were together. If Kaylee's like calling over and over again, her ex-boyfriend doesn't answer, I'd be like, Erica, call him.
Yeah,
and that's probably what Madison,
happened.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so,
police they've investigated the ex-boyfriend, but they don't see any suspicious signs that he's a suspect at this time. They
Right.
haven't ruled him out, but
yeah. I mean, this doesn't seem that weird to me that they
No.
did this at all.
no, it's just 2 girls that are drunk and wanting to prank call people
Yeah.
late at night.
Yeah, exactly. So then there's also a stalker incident. So back in October of 2022, Kaylee had mentioned to her friends that she had a stalker. So police found where this story stems from. So according to police, Kaylee was at an unidentified business where 2 men were inside the business trying to pick up women. One of those men followed Kaylee around the store and even out to her car. Now, he did not contact Kaylee, but I mean,
I'd be fucking freaked out.
yeah, that's like sketchy as hell and super scary. Now, the 2 men were investigated, but wow, what the fuck?
We cannot talk today.
So the 2 men were investigated by police, but they were cleared as suspects.
Who goes to a business and just is like, I'm picking up women? What does that even mean?
What is going on in Moscow?
What does that even mean? I'm like picking them up for a date, or I'm just going to stalk them around the store
Yeah.
to see if I like what I see and then
Like
ask them out on a date.
Like you do that at businesses, but like, I mean, at bars, but not at like businesses and like stores. And
I would
stuff.
think it would be like probably a grocery store or something.
Yeah. Sketchy ass fucking people.
Right.
Stalkers.
So weird.
Stalkers.
So, Natalie, final thoughts.
So this case is really frustrating. One, the fact that we have, well, I don't know. I hope police have leads and they're just not telling us. I think that they have someone in mind. I think that they have a suspect in mind, but honestly, my mind is kind of all over the place. So first and foremost, just being a true crime, addict, my first was, is this a Ted Bundy, Chi Omega type situation?
That's what I thought about in my mind too.
Yeah. But then,
Because he did leave 2 surviving
he left
people.
surviving witnesses. He
And
left a
one
surviving victim.
Yeah, he left a surviving victim and
Yeah.
2 surviving other roommates.
Yeah, and so it's one of those. Now, I know that there's a lot of speculation. Was it a targeted event or a targeted attack? Was it not? If it was a targeted attack, I would think that it would be after Kaylee and it would be in Madison or Maddie. I think it would be interesting to see
How Ethan and Xana play into it.
well, like, I just don't understand. Like, I understand the roommates on the first floor not hearing anything. I don't understand how this person was able to attack 4 different people. Well, okay, let's say 4 different people in 3 different rooms. Attack all these people without anyone else waking up. Like, they were all found in their bedrooms. And that's where the crime scene was, to our knowledge so far, which each one of those. So it's not like he murdered them and then put them back in their room. So, like, how was he able, or they, able to do this without them waking up? It's just so weird to me.
And also, it's not been said, did they go for Xana and Ethan first? Because
Right.
Ethan was a boy, so they would have gone all the way up to the 3rd floor first to kind of take out the target,
Yeah.
take out the threat.
They would have to have been watching them then.
Right.
Beforehand, if they knew that Ethan, because Ethan didn't live there. Now, he was there a lot, but like just to know he
didn't
was in
live
that.
there.
Right.
To know where he was and where Xana's room was.
Yes, and exactly when they all were in the house. And like, what? Who came home first again?
The 2 surviving roommates.
Well, no, after them, like between Xana and Ethan, because
Ethan
it
and
was
Xana.
okay. They came back first, and then so that leads me to believe, like, if they were going after Ethan and Xana, like, why wouldn't they have attacked him there unless they'd been watching the house and they knew that there were 2 other roommates that they thought would come home, or was it Kaylee and Maddie were the targets? I don't think it was all 4
But then,
of them.
like, why even bother with the 2 others and then not even do the 2 downstairs?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Like,
I
any
feel like-
situation I come up with, there's always questions like that, and I have no answers.
What if it's multiple people?
I feel like it almost would have to be for them to, like, whoever it was, to be able to kill all those people at once without waking someone else up.
Right. And I've even thought, like, what if the person, if they knew the code or if there was, like, no entryway, what if they were already in the house when everybody came home?
That is scary as fuck.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
what if they were already in the house when, like, they had left at a, like, out to go partying and they had already, like, cased the place?
Yeah.
Like, cased, like, the bedrooms and,
Yeah.
like, everything else. And they were already in the home so that they already knew where to go.
Yeah.
And to be as stealth as possible to
Right.
make their move.
Yeah.
I don't.
That's scary as
It would
fuck.
like that's how I'm thinking. Like I would want to know more about like the dog incident.
Yeah.
Like the Kaylee's dog.
Yeah.
Was it a bark or was it a girl? I want to know more about that 6th roommate.
Yeah.
I want to know more about like if it's one person, if it's 2 person, were they stalking the house? How
Yeah.
they case out the. I mean, did they go to a party and that's how they cased out the floor plan in each room?
Yeah.
In the house?
They would have to know. They'd have to know a little bit about this house.
They would
right?
have to know a little bit about this house. And that's kind of weird to do that at a party, too.
I would want to know what, like, did they all sustain the same type of injuries? Was one attacked more than the other? I know that it came out, I can't remember, was it Kaylee or Maddie's dad who came out and he said,
It's Kaylee's.
Kaylee's dad saying that his daughter was attacked more viciously than anyone else. So does that leads one to believe that maybe she was the target?
Yeah.
But then again, why kill everyone else
Right.
if she was a target? Maybe the other 3 saw them out, but Xana and Ethan weren't ever with Maddie and Kaylee that night, right?
They only went to the football game together
Right.
with the other 2 surviving roommates.
Right.
So it's like
so it's not.
if they like made someone mad at the corner club, I would
Yeah.
want to know more about who was at the corner club or at that grub
right.
wandering kitchen food
Thing,
truck
yeah.
or something.
Because there was a guy caught on camera at that one, but they eliminated him as a suspect, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got to believe that the police know more than what they're saying, which is absolutely fine. We get it. That's great. I really hope they have a suspect. It's astounding, though, that it's gotten this much publicity. It's been a month, and there's no leads. I would be terrified if I was a student.
And there was a lot of articles leading up to yesterday because yesterday was actually the commencement for the end of the semester.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they were thinking that like the murderer would actually be in attendance there. So they had like a lot of security.
Right.
I haven't heard what happened or if anything happened at that commencement.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be splashed all over the news if it did.
We would have heard that by now, I
But
think.
it's an eerie feeling. Like, is this it? Or is more coming?
There's got to be more coming. There's no way that these don't get solved. I would have to, like, you can't be, like, leave a crime scene where it's that hectic and chaotic and blood
No,
everywhere.
I'm talking about, is this the end of like a spree / serial killing, or is there more to come?
coming? That's another thing. Is it a serial killer?
I mean, he or she is already technically a serial killer, but
Right.
it's also a spree killing.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Oh, I don't know. I hope to God.
I
it
hope
is.
to God not.
Yeah. I hope to God it's the end.
You know, our hearts and our prayers go out to Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan's friends and family,
Yeah.
the University of Idaho, and the community of Moscow. This has totally rocked everyone's world, and us in Tennessee, your 2 girls at Drunken True Crime, our hearts go out to you guys.
Yeah. I mean, it's touched the entire country.
It has
not the
internationally.
world.
It's
Yeah.
international news now, and it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
If you would like to send a tip to the Moscow police, please call 208-883-7180. Or you can email a tip at email.tipline@cl.moscow.id.us.com. .us. Sorry.
That is one hell of an email address. Okay. That was impressive.
So Natalie, when she edits, she's going to just put it up on the
Yeah, that's going to be hard to edit out, but we'll put it on the screen.
put it on the screen so like my dumbass doesn't like sound ridiculous.
And then if you're listening to this on audio, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yes, please.
So,
Well, with that being said, y'all,
be a bitch and stay alive. Cheers.